Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Wantrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and I've been very excited for a long time about today's guest. This is someone who I connected with, feels like a few months ago. It's someone who essentially is my neighbor. We live in the same area here in Florida, and it's someone who, just like myself, I can relate to so many parts of his entrepreneurial journey because he started out in the early 2010s developing things on the internet. As our generation, we just played around with things and we have that real understanding of the ways that things work so that all of these modern tools that we all get to use in our modern day businesses, we get to layer really cool solutions onto that. And today's entrepreneur is so dedicated to bringing those types of awesome web development and important things that we can implement on our websites to create experiences, showcase our brands, and really connect with the people who come across our companies. So let me tell you all about today's guest. His name is Kevin Gilleard. Kevin got started as a web developer in 2010, hand coding his first landing pages in Notepad. Yes, that default Windows app that we all had on our computers back then, and probably still to this day that nobody uses. Since then, he has worked on the full stack from systems administrations to software engineering, copywriting, user experience or UX, e-commerce, and everything in between. He started his own web development and branding business with a friend in 2023, and together they're ready to take over the world with some really cool solutions. Kevin combines the really technical knowledge of what it takes to create these things on the internet, but also a real passion for making them come to life for businesses and for brands. So I'm really excited about this one. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Kevin Gilleard. All right, Kevin, I'm so excited to have you here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. Happy to be here.
Heck yes. We're going to talk about some fun stuff.
That was a pretty high energy, excellent intro, I must say.
Heck yes. Well, Kevin, you and I both secretly know that it really started in our initial phone conversation when we came across each other. And so much of it is we could geek out about all these things. So you've got to take us beyond the bio first. Who's Kevin? How'd you start doing all these awesome things?
Yeah. So, actually, it started in 2009, and I wasn't doing much in my early 20s, and my parents said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I mean, whatever. I'm happy just doing whatever, right?" And my stepmom said, you have." She had a marketing company herself, and she had an eye. She says that I have the design eye. And so she booked some college classes for me in Fullerton Junior College in Orange County, where I was living around there at the time. And she just sent me. So I started, and I decided, I could do this. And very shortly thereafter, actually, a job opportunity opened up where I was offered a position that I didn't really know quite anything about in a big publishing company in LA. And it turns out it was the web development and internet marketing area. And they said, "Well, do you know anything about this?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And so I spent a lot of very late nights going through the headache phase of figuring out how internet works, what it all means, how to do copywriting, how to do what marketing is. It was a crash course that turned into a very, very long lesson over the course of about 13 years of basically just building my skills. So at first it was fake it till you make it. Then it became actually a real professional skill that I had developed, and I realized it was quite marketable. And so I decided to go off on my own and do my own venture, which is kind of an interesting story in itself. But so I've come a long way, and I hope to keep doing this for a lot longer. I can't say that this is like always, the thing that I energetically explode out of bed every day, ready to take on, the IT world or whatever. But it gives me like a deeper satisfaction when I can create something for somebody, especially a small business like myself, because I know that they're struggling and they have their own troubles. I really actually prefer to go along with the small business building, because it's something that actually like I really care about, and that's something as an entrepreneur is really important. You have to actually really care about what you're doing and the product that you're producing and bringing to the world. So, anyways, I don't know if that probably doesn't cover really even half of it, but there you go. That's a small bit.
Yeah, I appreciate that overview, Kevin, especially because I get to supplement today's conversation with so much of the things that you and I had talked about previously off the air. And part of it is, even in that overview, we heard that for much of our generation, we kind of fell into the internet and all the things that come around the internet. And when I think about you hand coding things in Notepad all the way back in 2010, obviously today we have all of these tools. We have Squarespace, which did not exist back then. We have the modern day WordPress, which that's what I was playing around with starting in 2008, where I had to custom code things in PHP and CSS. And that's where I learned all of those things, which it's funny, Kevin, because part of me looks at the skills you and I developed back then. And I think, man, why were we doing all of that work by hand? Like, we don't have to do any of that stuff today. But then something that you and I talked about is it does give us an unfair advantage when it comes to understanding the architecture and understanding how to make custom solutions and make different things possible. Talk to me about how those skills that you developed back then have translated even to these modern day tools. Because when you're doing web development for your clients, you're using modern tools. But talk to us about how that really foundational understanding of it plays into today's world.
Yeah, Brian, that's actually a really good point. So when we started, we didn't have these amazing, like fantastic tools that we have today, like Squarespace, modern WordPress, as you say, and so many other tools too. Like, I mean, the Ghost for blogging, the blogosphere has completely changed. It's gone onto proprietary platforms like Medium and Substack, but at the same time, you have companies like Ghost who are making that self-hosted, and like the underlying technologies have changed to such a degree that, like CSS, for example, I have seen the development where we had so many hacks that we had to do, like remember floats and all these other crazy things that you had to do with table layouts and stuff on websites. And then the fundamental underlying technology of CSS has developed and matured in such a way that these modern tools utilize the underlying technology. So like understanding the underlying technology, you can see through the tool that you're using and see what it's doing. And then you can spot inefficiencies. You can also spot business solutions that you would miss if you didn't know what was happening under the hood. Fundamentally, how HTML works. I have a strong background in PHP. I'm a PHP developer. Don't hate. I know that PHP gets a lot of hate, but it also is the most popular scripting language on the internet, period. So, I mean, it can't be that bad. Plus, it's matured quite a bit over the years. And understanding how programming works, honestly, I think has given me the biggest advantage because I can think like a program. I can think logically how data moves and changes and evolves through a system. And remember, I mean, websites today, they are sophisticated software. A lot of times when I'm talking to clients, I have to remember that they're not thinking about it like that. You think, you look at a website, you think it's more like a magazine, what you see is what you get, but what's happening under the hood, it gets so complex. The tools like Squarespace, for example, man, that is, there's a lot of opinion that has gone into it. There's a lot of things you can't change about it. And it's also proprietary. I mean, if they go out of business tomorrow, you're out of business. If you're on Squarespace, same with Shopify, same with Wix and these other builders. I think that being able to directly own your piece of the internet, understand how to create a domain name, maintain domains, maintain your own web server, host your own websites. And if you have to build your own web pages by hand, you're never going to be without a fish. You're never going to go hungry. So that's helped me quite a bit. It definitely helps me plan things for my clients because I'm not boxed into a certain ecosystem or walled garden. I can choose from any number of solutions for them. I hand coded a straight landing page just with HTML and CSS because that was going to be the fastest thing for this client. He just wanted a quick page to promote his book, and that's it. So in an afternoon, just banged it out, and it's the fastest. It has the fastest Google Lighthouse score I have ever seen on any website ever anywhere, because it's just 15 kilobytes in an image, so you can't beat that. Anyways, I would say that those are the things that really provide an advantage for having so much knowledge and skill in the underlying fundamental technologies, right? It takes you from, I guess it's just turtles all the way down, to really actually just understanding the basic foundation. And if you're going to be a web developer, if you're going to be a good web developer, you have to go through the headache stage, what I call the headache stage. Some people call it the 10,000 hours or whatever it is, right? Anything worth doing on planet Earth, anything worth doing in any economy is going to be difficult to do. So if you push through that constant desire and nagging feeling that you have to give up, that you want to stop, that you want to quit or whatever, double down on it, right? Figure out, what is it about this that I'm looking at that I actually don't understand? I'm pretending I understand it, but I actually don't understand it. Get honest with yourself and look it up. Watch YouTube videos about it. Even go on ChatGPT and ask about the etymology, or where did this word come from, or where did this term or technology come from? Honestly, and Brian, I know I'm rambling here, but this is one thing, honestly, that was a shocker to me that really helped me so much in actually just making sense of any of this. The whole ecosystem of web technology and marketing was actually an internet history course that was put on for free by the University of Michigan that I did, and it really opened my eyes quite a lot because we really explored what the problems these early tech pioneers from the 80s and the 90s and the 70s, what the problems that they were what problems were they solving? And understanding that just gives you a whole really great understanding of just the whole industry. So
Yeah, Kevin, I'll tell you what, you call it rambling, but here's the cool thing about all these stories and insights that you're sharing is we're talking about web development right now, but you're also lacing it with real entrepreneurial lessons. And I think that when we all apply this to our own industries, not just the solutions that your company, for example, brings to the world, it's those real life insights. So I appreciate hearing not just the things you have to say, but the way that you think. And I want to extrapolate that a little bit and talk about your clients, because actually I want to read for listeners who can't see your website just yet and see your company in action, but your company, GillyTech, I love what you wrote to articulate what it is that you guys do. You wrote, "We provide agency level web development and design services to small businesses at rates that they can actually afford." Kevin, that seems to be so ingrained. That language and messaging is so prevalent in all the places that you show up. Talk to me about that, because agency level scares a lot of people away. Actually, I would argue most people never even reach out to specialists and people who can provide solutions because they just assume it's outside of their scope and budget. But it seems so ingrained in the way that you operate that you love this stuff and you want to bring it to even more people. Talk to us about GillyTech's approach.
Yeah, so obviously any company needs to have a purpose, and it actually needs to offer something that other companies aren't offering, right? I mean, I guess you could as a plumber, right? You're offering the same service, but even then, there was a great marketing campaign in LA when I was living there. It was about the Smell Good Plumbers of Mike Diamond. And anybody that ever listened to the radio knew that Mike Diamond sends plumbers that smell good. And I guess that's a button for people. So even then you can find a unique selling proposition. So when I started GillyTech, I was thinking, why do I care? What do I really want to do? What do I actually care about? And I thought, I was talking to clients, potential clients of mine. One was a bodybuilder who wanted to up his game on getting clients for training, weight training. And so I was talking to him, and he's like, yeah, I just want a real simple page. I talked to a guy, he wanted $3,000 for a website. And I'm thinking, $3,000 for a website's not that much. But, we're talking about a little guy who is like, he just does this stuff on the weekends, right? And he knew nothing. So I was like, okay, I need to help him because he's my friend, and I said, okay, for this specific case, I decided, okay, let's just do Squarespace because it's pretty simple and he can manage it himself. I said, okay, send me pictures of yourself and then send me, your purpose, what you do, what you want to do. It came up with a good tagline for him. I made a logo for him on ChatGPT, on Midjourney, and made his site. And then I just thought about what, I wanted to create a persona for him. So I put some nice big flashy colors on there, and I put him on the front page with his muscles exploding. And he says that he gets tons of clients from that. And he's really upped his game quite a bit. And I realized oh man, yeah, this was totally, accessible to him. I did it for $300 or $400 or something like that, in a day. So it was it was fine. I was no skin off of my back, but it really helped him quite a bit. And I thought, okay, I think I have something here because I know enough about this industry that I can cut a lot of the fat out of things and cut a lot of the overheads out of the product so that I can actually provide it for the same kind of profit margin, but with way less overhead. So it ends up being much cheaper for the client. So I win and my clients win. And, I'm going to give away a marketing secret, which has really helped me. I mean, so much actually, just making landing pages, making offers and whatever. And this is a formula for coming up with a tagline or a headline for your website. And listen closely because it works. And I didn't make this up. I got it from a marketing guy called Flint McLaughlin, who nobody's ever heard of, but he is probably one of the most knowledgeable internet marketing minds, period. So here goes. When you're thinking about your headline, you have to ask the question, if I am your ideal prospect, why should I buy your service rather than your competitors? And the answer is because, and then whatever comes after the word because, that's your headline. So, because we provide agency level web solutions at prices that small businesses can actually afford. Okay, that is going to get you in. Your headline isn't, welcome to my website, which I see on almost every client that comes to me with an existing website has something like that, right? Because most people that make websites today just aren't good. I mean, there's a lot of really great web developers out there. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not one of them. But the bargain basement sort of web kind of agency type, places that really don't do design very well. They really don't do, they just have stock pages, stock templates, ChatGPT copy, the typical trite sort of marketing ease that goes into all websites or all, business. It's I just see that and I'm like, man, these guys are just being bent over a barrel, and there's no reason. And it's they're being taken advantage of, other small business owners. I think it's a travesty. I mean, I think it's horrible. So I wanted to jump into this space. I wanted to provide a helping hand to my fellow entrepreneurs and small businesses, and try. I mean, it's challenging because I'm not getting those big corporate contracts that like, real cushy, don't really have to do much, can hire a bunch of guys in India and just get stuff done. That's definitely not the operation that we're doing here. And anyways, that's kind of like why I came up with this. I admonish everybody to take a good look at their company that they want to start or that they have started and figure out what their purpose is. What do they deliver? What sort of products do you deliver? What do you want to be known for? And what's going to like make you feel good? I mean, every time I finish a website, every time I deliver something for a client, like if I finish a contract or I say, give them the last email, say it's done, here it is, right? I feel so good. I actually want to throw a party every time because I know that I've actually helped somebody and I've helped myself in the process. And I mean, the more I can get that done, the more it happens, the bigger and more expansive I become. So, it's definitely a big part of the game. And I would say, I want this to be like good advice for your listeners, Brian. So there you go. That's what I got to say about it.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much because here's the thing, Kevin. It's easy to kind of label this episode as web development and design services like what you offer with GillyTech, but you're showcasing, as you did in our initial conversation, you're showcasing your love for, you reference, internet marketing founding fathers and all the advice that they give us. I'm a big fan of that as well. John Carlton is a name that I've listened to for a long time, and most of his stuff, it's in like old school bound books, like the spiral bound books that you have to buy. And it's that type of advice. You love business as well. And so that's why I love even that real life example that you gave us about the fitness guy, the personal trainer. Thinking about that, a lot of people think, if I have the best template on Squarespace or WordPress or Wix or whatever website builder people use, they think that it's the template that matters, whereas it's this real stuff. You walked us through a headline approach, for example. And so you also know, because you're equally as geeky as I am in this regard, about that age-old argument of design versus just functionality and conversion. Talk to me about your attitude there, because as someone who has skill sets in both of those arenas, it's obviously a balance on your behalf as well to make sure that this stuff converts and make sure that it, from a business perspective, does what we're looking for it to do. How do you weigh design versus functionality?
Yeah, so it depends on the industry. It depends on who you're making the site for. Obviously, a lawyer is going to have a different kind of design than, let's say, I don't know, a kids' funhouse rental company, right? Those are obviously two massive extremes, and you're going to have major design differences. Depending on your audience, you also really have to think about, I see a lot of, especially today, because animation tools are everywhere and they're very easily accessible. I mean, back in the early days, we didn't have animation at all. And if you did, it was Flash. And after Flash, we got, JavaScript libraries that came out that you had to be a freaking like rocket scientist, PhD, like triple PhD graduate student to figure out how to use them. And then as things got easier to use and we started seeing WordPress templates that had these, animation libraries built in, people started taking like massive liberties. I got to say, I'm not a fan of the gratuitous animations at all. When we've all seen it, you're scrolling down a website and then the paragraph are scrolling in from one side, and then the pictures are coming in from the top, and then everything's fading and moving around, and like, no, like, it's just stop it. Like, basically, the rule for this applies to, like, let's say copy or anything, honestly, any design, and the main rule is how much can you cut out while retaining the message that you want to deliver. And I'm not saying like no animation. I use animation in my designs. I have it on my homepage, but it's with a purpose. I mean, every single element, every single word, every color, every font has to have a very specific purpose, and it has to support the message that you're overall trying to convey for every single page. You also want to stay consistent. And actually, now that you mention it, there's actually an old book by a woman named Robin Williams called The Non-Designer's Design Book, 4th edition. And that book taught me more about design than anything that I've read or watched in the last 15 years, because it teaches the very core pillars of design in a way that you can actually understand it, right? You've got, let's see if I can remember what they all are. Contrast, alignment, proximity, and consistency, and there's one other, I don't know. But anyways, you get those down, and you look at what you've designed and what you've made and cut out as much as you can while supporting your message. You're going to get really, really far, and your clients are going to really like it. And one thing that I tell my clients when I'm talking to them all the time is this: you would think that good design looks good, and you're going for something that looks good, but really great design is what feels good. Like when you look at something and you have an emotional response that's deeper than your analytical response to something that you're looking at. And I know this is getting kind of philosophical, but I mean, I think that's the path to greatness. So, if like getting really serious about it, I think that's really the attitude you have to take when you're designing something. And it really depends. I mean, I spend a lot of time just interviewing my clients, trying to understand them and their company as much as I possibly can, so I can envision something for them that they're really going to like. And it's worked out really well, because I have not had a single client say, well, I hate that. That's horrible. Usually it's the opposite. So I like to keep that system in as much as I can.
Yeah, Kevin, gosh, the fact that you're doing this all here freestyle, and listeners know that there are no pre-planned questions. And here you are dropping advice from impactful books in your journey, from Robin Williams' 4 Basic Design Principles. The one that you left out, I had to Google this. I did not know this off the cuff, is ironically enough, Kevin, you missed out on repetition. So important principles for us.
Dang
proximity, alignment, repetition, and contrast. I love how much you reference those, because those are the things that stick with you. And the fact that you incorporate them in your client projects and the way that you operate is really cool to see here in real time. And Kevin, I'm excited to ask you this last question, because I personally have no idea which direction you're going to take it in. And that is your one piece of advice. And you've talked to us today, not just with your web development and design hat on, but I love how much you also equally enjoy wearing your entrepreneurial hat. So that question is, what's that one takeaway? Knowing that listeners are tuning in at all different stages of their entrepreneurial, or yes, entrepreneurial journeys, at all different growth phases, what's that one thing that you want to impart on them here today?
Okay, so I hope this is one thing, and I think about this a lot, actually. So I started this company, GillyTech, just by myself, actually out of necessity. I had a job. I had left the job in LA. I had taken another job in a different marketing company, and they said, well, we don't really have like anything left for you to do. There was a campaign that they were running, and we finished it, and it was done. So I said, okay, well, one day I was in my underwear in my apartment, one morning, not going to my job because I didn't have one. And I was sitting at my computer, and it was in the morning. I was drinking my coffee. I do get dressed. I am married. And I said, that's it. I now own a company, and that company is called GillyTech. That I remember the moment that I made that decision. And it's a very important moment for especially anybody who wants to start a business, who wants to start their own venture. We live in a country where you can just create a business from nothing and have it be a matter of law in a matter of moments. I mean, I was in California. California is notoriously expensive everywhere, but it costs $25 to register my company name. And one thing also that I actually look back on and consider a blessing is I decided I was not going to do a whole ton of research on how to start a company. I did not do a single Google search on, how do I, start a web development company, right? I decided that I knew what I was doing. And it's just really, really important. And especially that word decide. You must decide to be, right, before you can do. You have to just declare that you are a business owner. There is no business. You have no clients. There's no business here. There's no forms. You have no business cards. You have no design. You don't have a logo. You have nothing, but you do have an idea, and you've created this thing. And that is what creation is. It's basically putting a part of yourself in something else. So that, I think, is the fundamental, most important thing I can ever say to anybody who wants to start a company or who has a company, is to really actually just decide that you own this company and this is what it's called. And then I started telling people, yeah, I've got a web development company. It's called GillyTech. I thought I had the worst case of imposter syndrome known to man when I would tell people that. I laugh at myself in the back of my head when I first started telling people that. But I kept a straight face, and people that I talked to believed me. And I actually started getting calls. People, I would go on Facebook, and people would I would go into different groups, and I'd see somebody doing maybe a survey for a business company, a business idea that they had, and then I'd answer it factually and professionally, and they were impressed that they ended up getting funding for their business and then paying me a large sum of money to make their website and do all their branding. So that's another area that I didn't even talk about at all. I partnered with a totally professional designer who is really just in a league of her own. She also worked for a big company for a long time, decided to get out. Actually, she was furloughed, and then she talked to me about doing business. And then so I said, I have a branding company. And I told people that I'll do a branding package for them. I'd sell it, and then call up my friend and say, you have a job. Guess what? Here you go. And that's how we got started. So, I mean, that to me is the most important thing. I will say also one other, you asked for one thing, I'm going to give you two things, and take this for what it's worth. But, with everything going on politically in the world over the last few years, we've seen a lot of turmoil with massive shifts of wealth all over the place. And, we had COVID, and that obviously changed a lot of things permanently. There's a lot of focus on the economy. And I've been thinking, what is economy? Like, what is the fundamental kernel of an economy? Like, how do you make money? How does an economy do good? How does it do poorly? And I realized that it really totally comes down to value, right? If people are creating value in any way, they're improving their economy. If value is not being created, then the economy is being depressed, right? And because an economy is only created by everybody who lives in it, who's connected to the economy. So the U.S. economy, it's everybody in the United States, and people that work for the United States, etc. And then I was thinking, well, what's value, right? And this is a thing that I've never heard anybody talk about. And I worked it over my head, and I realized that this actually is totally true. I haven't been able to disprove myself. Value is creating order, bringing order to your environment. The more order you create, the more value you bring to something. So whatever you're doing, you have to think, am I bringing order, or does this product create chaos, right? Do things, because that's the difference between life and material things, is material thing is just tends toward chaos, tends towards entropy. Everything sort of just kind of becoming the same. And then what life does is it brings order to things. It makes things more faster, efficient, saves time, saves resources, brings more joy, makes somebody happier, whatever it is. So the horse and buggy was replaced with the car because it saved people time. It brought order to their lives to that degree. So I think it's really important when you're determining, what your product is or what you want to offer, you really should be thinking, how do I bring the most order? And that honestly is just going to be a major credit to an economy. And if you do that, you really can't fail. You actually just can't fail. So bring more order, not chaos. That'll be my top piece of advice, Brian.
Yes, I love that, Kevin. Honestly, I will say that you've delivered from start to finish a very rare combination of the technical, the philosophical, as well as the practical. And I so appreciate that, Kevin. And I really genuinely appreciate the fact that you are so committed on that topic of value, of bringing value and bringing your services to even more people. So The one thing that you owe us right now is for people who want to go deeper into your ecosystem and all the value that you're putting out there for your clients and putting out there into the world, drop those links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
Yeah. Okay. So my website is GillyTech.pro. There's not much there, honestly, but I'm building it up. Honestly, I've just been so busy with client projects that I haven't actually. It's so stupid. It's a really bad excuse, but it's true. Anyways, hopefully I can get more up before this goes live, and so that your listeners can check it out. Otherwise, you can check me out on Twitter. It's at Kevin_Gilleard, Gilleard. And, LinkedIn, you can hit me up on LinkedIn as well, GillyTech. Also, Facebook page is GillyTech, so you can check that out. Otherwise, you should just email me. Just if you want to talk, we'll talk. I love hanging out. I love chatting. I love helping people. I don't have to sell you something. You don't have to buy something from me. If you want to be friends, send me an email, kevin@gillytech.pro.
Yes, listeners, and you already know the drill. We're making it as easy as possible for you to find all of those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. And Kevin means it. As someone, I'm excited. We're going to get coffee in person very shortly here. So I know how much Kevin loves geeking out about all these things. So take him up on it. Honestly, you hear how committed he is to bringing these agency level solutions to all business owners. So no matter where you are in your business journey, check out those links down below in the show notes. Otherwise, Kevin, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks a lot, Brian. It's been fun.